The Fan.
Hello and welcome into the Skraby Show for not January anymore, February 2nd, 2026. Thank you so much for joining me. And thanks to everybody who came down to FanFest and said hello. I met a lot of Skrabinators at FanFest, and I met a lot of people that said that they love having some sports talk on, or at least some talk on from 6 to 7 on their drive home. So thank you for listening. I really do mean that. It's always nice when you get to meet people that are out there. So appreciate you all. Clay just mentioned something on my YouTube thing. I said January 2nd, 2026, not February 2nd, 2026. So I'm not sure that I'm going to be able to fix that, but you know what? It is what it is. We are in that type of day. Actually, I am going to see if I could fix it real quick. I don't know if that's possible after you've already started a stream. Everybody is probably loving this conversation right now. Let me save it and see if it changes. I don't know if it will. Yeah, I don't know. Anyway, we're going to talk about a lot tonight. We're going to talk about the Padres playoff odds, which I think is a little premature to really dive into, but I'll tell you where they're at. We also, I had a talk with Danny at FanFest, and Danny really wanted to convince me that Fernando is the guy for the leadoff spot. So I went back and I looked into some things. So we're going to talk about that. Also, there is a new Olympic sport for the Winter Olympics that I am actually looking forward to watching. It's called Skimo, and we'll talk about it. But Skimo is going to be a part of the Winter Olympics. Also, I think I am going to be the newspaper reader of the tech era, and I'll explain that as well. But right now they have up in Santa Clara, they have the Super Bowl opening night where all the players go and talk to the media. And I've done a few of those. I've been to a few of those. It's always a madhouse. It's nearly impossible to get near the front of the popular players and quarterbacks and things like that. But it is fun to kind of see it. Maybe it's because I'm getting older. Maybe because I just have more going on in my life, but I am more and more not into all of the hoopla before the game. I do not care anymore about media opening night or media night for the Super Bowl. I just want the game to happen and then go from there. But they always do this every single year, and there's always something crazy that comes out of it. Like that one time, some woman was like, "Marry me, please, Tom Brady, marry me." And yeah, that's what that Super Bowl media row was known for. I went to the Minnesota Super Bowl when the Patriots lost to the Eagles. I also went to the Houston Super Bowl where the Patriots beat the Falcons after coming back and winning that game. And there was one other Super Bowl that I went to that I cannot remember where it was right now. But, Minnesota. No, wait, I already said I went to Minnesota. There's one more. I just can't remember. But here's the thing with the Super Bowl radio row. It is extremely crowded. And like when you pay for a table and a radio station broadcast, you have to pay a lot of money, but you're locked into this place. And there's a bunch of other radio stations around. There's a lot of crazy shows going on, like wacky shows type of thing, where there's a bunch of noisemakers going off. So there's all of these radio stations that are basically put on top of each other. And this is where my famous Le'Veon Bell story comes from. Le'Veon Bell, former running back in the NFL, was walking through the tables and everything, and he was eating some French fries. And Le'Veon Bell put his empty, gross, half-eaten container with ketchup French fries on my table as I was sitting there. And it really bothered me. It really bothered me because it was gross. I am not a trash table, Mr. Bell. I am not a trash table. And I will never forget that because it was very rude that he knew I was sitting there, knew there was radio equipment there, and he put down his French fry gross container anyway. Probably doesn't seem like that big of a deal to everybody out there, but you weren't there. And I'm telling you, you would have been angry too because there were no trash cans. So now what do I do with the french fries and the ketchup? Why do I need to go and like hop over tables now to throw away your french fries, sir? Anyway, I'm getting off track a little bit. But here's like the toughest part is there are some producers there that will push you down to get guests on their show. I am not one of those producers. Sorry. I am not going to be someone who pushes over people to get guests on a show. But there are people that are very forceful like that. And I specifically remember a time when Tony Gonzalez, the tight end, was walking around and he was looking, they I guess finished early with whatever hit they were doing. And he was walking around and we were like, "Oh, Tony Gonzalez over there." Someone asked me, "Tony Gonzalez, do you want him on the show?" And I was like, "Yes, please." But this radio producer from like all the way down comes running. "Tony Gonzalez, we have a spot for you over here. We got a spot for you over here." Tony Gonzalez didn't know that his handler had already like told us that we're going to have Tony Gonzalez on. So he turned around and started walking the other way. And then the handler was like, "Hey, we'll come back this way and we'll sit down with you because I already told you." He never came back that way and he never sat down. And what was he selling? He was selling avocados and he brought around guacamole to everyone that he interviewed with. He had chips and all this stuff. So I was very angry at this producer because hey, the guy was about to sit down at our table. But that's the kind of thing you go up against at Radio Row. Again, I am not going to be someone who's going to push over, and even like I'm not even going to be someone who steals a guest from someone else. I just don't think it's necessary, but a lot of other people out there, especially in the radio business, do. So I'm saying it's all like it's a bad thing, but I met a lot of great people at the Super Bowl Radio Rows as well. Never got to go to the game because if you get the Radio Row, that means nothing in regards to getting to the game. You have to pay extra or whatever as a media personality to get in there. So I always came home before the game, but it was always chaos. And it was always like when we went to Minnesota, it was cold. It was negative and it was freezing. And we had to go and we had to walk every day from our hotel that we all shared a room in because it was so expensive. We walked in like -10 one day. It was brutal. It was brutal. But anyway, that is Radio Row, and that's what's happening up at the Super Bowl right now. I also find it strange that the Super Bowl's in Santa Clara, but they're calling it San Francisco Super Bowl, which San Francisco is kind of far away. But I know how people don't like when I talk about San Francisco, Santa Clara, so I will move on. And I'll move on to the 2026 playoff chances via Fangraphs. So I saw this earlier, and this is a misleading number right here because number one, these teams are not, or the Padres team is not going to be the Padres team right now is not going to be the Padres team that plays during the season. So having these playoff chances already is ridiculous a little bit because there's still an incomplete roster, and a lot of these teams have incomplete rosters. But when you're looking at playoff chances, the number one everybody knows is the Dodgers. They have a 99% chance of they have a 99% chance of going to the playoffs. I believe they have a 28% chance of winning the World Series, which is by far and away the highest. So 1 out of 4 World Series is going to include, or the Dodgers are going to win one of those 4 World Series. That's crazy. That is crazy to me. Some of the other teams at the top, the Braves, 88%, Mariners, Mets, Phillies, Cubs. And then we keep going. There's one, 37%. Playoff chance, San Francisco Giants. And then you get all the way down to 21%, which is where the Padres and the Rays are right now for playoff chances. Do not read into this number, but I think it is a little ridiculous that these numbers are out there because the Pittsburgh Pirates right now have a better shot at making the playoffs than like 12 teams. We know that's not going to happen. We know that's not going to happen. The Pittsburgh Pirates start strong some years, and most of the time they fade away. But I just don't see how the Padres could be 21%. If you look at what they have so far, I mean, maybe they're just literally looking at the roster pieces that they have right now, which I know that they are, but they're not even taking into account the fact that Jackson Merrill and Fernando Tatis Jr., they're getting Joe Musgrove back, Michael King's coming back. It doesn't seem like you're taking into account anything. The teams that are below the Padres, 16% for the Reds, 15% for the Guardians, 10% for the Cardinals, which, by the way, when did the Cardinals become this franchise that doesn't care about winning, it seems like? Miami Marlins, 8%, LA Angels, 7%, the White Sox and Nationals, 1%. And last place, 2026 playoff chances for Major League Baseball, 0.2% goes to the Colorado Rockies. It's the 99%, though, I understand, obviously, because without some major injuries and things that happen to that team, they're going to make the playoffs. It's the 28% winning a World Series chance that really bothers me, because I don't think the team should come into a season and be over 25% to win the World Series. We need a little bit more parity there. The other ones, let me grab it real quick because I want to make sure I have all of the actual numbers correct. But if you look at, so the Dodgers are 28%, Braves are 10%, Mets are 7%. And then as you go all the way down, obviously, the Padres are 0.7%. They have as I said, 21% chance to make the playoffs. So if you're looking at this Fangraphs thing right here, it's telling you that the Padres aren't going to be very good this year. But I highly disagree with the 21% chance that the Padres have according to Fangraphs. I highly disagree. All right. When we get back, we are going to talk about Fernando Tatis Jr. in the leadoff spot. I want to talk about that a little bit because I've been saying I want Fernando to hit a little bit lower, but I don't see anybody on the roster that's going to be able to lead off that's better than Fernando. So we'll go through some of the numbers and we'll talk through it together here on the Skraby Show, 97.3 The Fan.
There's a
Skraby Show, broadcasting live from the Bill House Studios. We know how. We're going to get into Fernando in just a second, but I added something to the list of things we need to talk about. And that is this the crazy happenings of insurance and the World Baseball Classic. Apparently, a lot of Puerto Rico's players have been declined for insurance on their contract, and it seems like it's becoming a problem. So we'll dive into that for a second. Next segment, because we got Fernando here. Let's just get into Fernando. I was going to go somewhere else real quick, but I'm not going to do that because I need all of the time necessary for Fernando Tatis Jr. And like I said at the beginning of the show, I talked to Danny at FanFest. Thank you, Danny. Appreciate you. And he was trying to tell me, don't give up on Fernando at the leadoff spot. Do not give up on Fernando at the leadoff spot. And I went back and I looked into it because really there's no other hitter right now on the team that I think could be an everyday leadoff hitter. But the reason I don't like Fernando at the leadoff spot is because I want him to drive in runs a little lower in the lineup. I feel like they're wasting opportunities down the lineup. But as of right now, with this current team that they have, and after doing the deep dive, I don't know there's another guy in the leadoff spot that could do better right now. Because if you think about it, the template for Fernando being a leadoff hitter is he can impact the game in many different ways at the leadoff spot. He can hit a leadoff home run, he can get a walk, he could steal a base, he could be driven in. He could do a lot of different things when he is the leadoff hitter. He could put a ton of pressure on pitching. If you start the game, Fernando walks or Fernando gets a base hit. Now he's on first, he steals second. All of a sudden, you got a guy in scoring position in the first inning, and you have someone who is a very good base runner in Fernando Tatis Jr. You have him on base. So you're going to put a ton of pressure on pitching when he gets on base. And I don't know how many walks we're going to see Fernando have this year. I don't know if it's going to be as many as last year. He said at FanFest that his problems last year were more mechanical than anything. So hopefully he's worked those out throughout the offseason. But another reason that he is another benefit for him to hit leadoff is that he gets more at bats. And you want your guys to get more at bats. You want your best hitters to get more at bats. If he were to hit second or third, you would probably, if he was to hit second, I don't know who would hit first. Right, that's where I keep coming back. Who's going to lead off on the team right now? It's got to be Fernando. And here's a stat that I think kind of proves why I think Fernando might be better elsewhere in the lineup. Because last year, throughout the entire year, his stats with 2 outs and runners in scoring position, he had 52 at bats. He hit 308, 4 home runs, 27 RBIs, stole 11 bases, walked 18 times, and had an OPS of 1.082. So last year when they were having trouble driving in runs, getting runs, I really am surprised they didn't try to move Fernando down for a longer period of time because he was the guy who was driving guys in. And so that's why I would want him at the 3 spot or the 4 spot. But again, I like the idea of Fernando putting pressure on pitching straight out the gate. Now, is he going to do that every day? No. But he can really stress out a pitcher really early in the game and really easy if he is able to get on base. Eric says, depends on if he's raking. He gets a lot of hits. Pitchers are going to start nibbling and Nando walks. True. We saw this last year. Pitchers tried to start pitching around Fernando, or at least they were trying to get him to chase, and he didn't chase as much as he had in his previous part of his career. And so if he walks, he's on base. Let's try to get him in. Let's try to move him over to second by stealing a base. Something. I don't mind. I just need guys to get on base. And that's the whole thing with Luis Arraez and how he didn't fit here for some people because Luis wasn't a guy who was going to hit for power, and really he was only a guy who could when he was hitting in the lineup, I did not feel like pitchers feared that part of the lineup. Even though Luis Ariz is a really good hitter, I didn't feel like at the time last year Luis was in the right spot because Fernando wasn't really protected with Luis in the second spot. But now, if you're just tuning in, Luis is up there in San Francisco with the Giants. And not to mention, he's going to be playing second base, which I think is very interesting because second base is not necessarily his best position. I know we're switching to Luis Ariz for a second, but he made just 10 starts last year at second base. And he, in his career, over the past 3 years, he's been worth negative 20 outs above average at second base. So this was coming from a San Francisco article. They were saying basically they are getting Luis Ariz to be a contact hitter. And so he is going to be, and he's going to play second base, but they're really counting on him to be the guy he was 3 previous years and not last year, even though 292 batting average is pretty good. But when Luis was in the lineup, I didn't feel like he was providing good protection to Fernando. And what Fernando needs is to get the best pitches as possible. I mean, if Fernando walked last year, yes, Luis can drive him in or at least move him over. But Luis was not hitting deep enough balls or getting into the gaps for Fernando to go first to home. And I think that's a problem because there were a lot of runs that were not scored last year because of situations like that. And Fernando has done this for the last couple years now. And I feel like he's coming into a year of his career where he's really going to take the next step. There's just something about the maturity that Fernando is showing right now that I think is a good thing because he's been working on his game all winter. He's going to be playing in the World Baseball Classic. And I think that Fernando is entering a part of his career where he could really make a legacy. And with the numbers that he had last year, after really, most of us saying for not the entire season, for a lot of the season that he's slumping because he was slumping, he ended up with some pretty good numbers. He had 32 stolen bases, 25 home runs, 71 RBIs, and he had an OPS of 814. He also walked, he walked 89 times, which is by far the most in his career. So he's growing. He's growing as a player. He's growing in his baseball career. And if you saw last year him fight through some of that mechanical adversity, I like what I saw because it sounds weird to say he's stuck in there or he hung in there. But that's what you have to do as a baseball player. You have to hang in there. Things aren't always going to go your way. So Fernando, right now, he's going to be the leadoff hitter of the team. His projections for 2026, 269 batting average, 805 OPS, 22 stolen bases, 23 home runs, 67 RBIs. I don't believe that. I think he's going to have a better year than that. I do. And if he doesn't have a better year than that, I think it's going to be a tough year for the Padres. This is the year for the superstars to really have to superstar. I've been saying it for the last few years. Like, superstars got a superstar. But this is the year more than any, I think, in the last 3 or 4, more than any, that the superstars have to carry this team this year. It cannot be superstars slumping for most of the year. It has to be these guys playing their best baseball of their career. Someone, Jay Mung said, last year numbers don't equal his contract. But if you look at his contract, you know what the thing about the contract is? There are many teams. I would have to say maybe outside the Rockies and the A's, there are 28 other teams, 27 if you take out the Padres, 27 other teams that will take this contract in a heartbeat. In a heartbeat. This year, 2026, He's being paid $21 million if I'm rounding up. That is a good price for Fernando Tatis Jr. Next year, it goes up to about 26 million per year, and then in 2029 it goes up to 37 million dollars per year. They're paying him the right amount right now. They're paying him $21 million is something that I think if you were to ask someone, hey, what would you give Fernando for 1 year? It would not be $21 million. I think we're looking, maybe even looking, I can't say Kyle Tucker numbers because I don't know if anybody's going to go that route, but we are looking at close to $30 million to $35 million for one season for Fernando. So this is an extremely team friendly contract. And I am not going to complain about the numbers and the money because he could have not signed this contract and he could have ended up holding out for a couple years and then getting a new contract, and then Padres being outpriced because they're just not going to pay $400 million for 7 years or whatever it is. So the contract that they gave him, I have no issues with. All contracts are going to be bad at the end because when he is 35 years old, he's going to be making $37 million. But at that point, hopefully there's a couple Super Bowls and things like that. All right. That was the Fernando Tatis Jr. leadoff talk. When we get back, I want to bring you something that AJ Preller said at FanFest about how to build the roster. Also, that new sport schemo at the Winter Olympics. We'll talk about that when we get back on the Skraby Show. 97.3 The Fan.
The biggest get.
All guests on 97.3 The Fan join us on the David P. Shapiro Fan Hotline. David P. Shapiro, criminal defense attorneys, helping good people regain control of their future when charged with a crime since 2010. Visit davidpshapirolaw.com. We've been talking about Fernando. We've been kind of weaving in and out of certain things. I just want to say, Justin Rose winning the Farmers Insurance Open at 45 and doing it the way he did, breaking the tournament record, 23 under, that was impressive. I hate when golf events don't really have any sort of drama at the end. But if you're going to have someone run away with the tournament, might as well have them do something that's never been done before, which is exactly what Justin Rose did over the weekend. I did not make it out there. I did not make it to Torrey Pines this weekend. I was at Fan Fest, and then yesterday I did this new thing I'm going to be doing for the next couple of weeks at least, where I'm going no phone Sunday. And we talked about this in the Gwen and Chris Overtime, which is up now on the Gwen and Chris YouTube. Just go to YouTube and at Gwen and Chris SD. You'll see the overtime episode. First, both the guys try to get me upset and they try to get me angry. And they question my fanhood of the 49ers. But then we talk about the no phone Sunday thing. And so that's in the overtime episode. You can go and watch that. Gwen and Chris SD on YouTube. You can also watch everything from the station, 97.3 The Fan on YouTube, 97.3 The Fan on Facebook, 97.3 The Fan SD on X, Matt Skraby on X, and then my YouTube is at The Skraby Show. SKRAB as in boy, Y, The Skraby Show. Here's what AJ Preller said over the weekend that it gives me an indication that we're going to be in an okay spot. Because this is what he said when asked about trade talks and asked about the roster and asked about how he's tackled this season, AJ Preller, that is. This is what he said, quote, "You consider all different options as you go into the offseason, making trades and deals that would have taken the payroll down. But here's the important part. But in terms of where we're at now, we feel like it's more about adding, which tells me that they're going to spend a little bit more money." Also, AJ Preller did say the team expects to have available most or all of Yu Darvish's $16 million salary. So they're trying to get Yu Darvish's salary off the books so that they can use that $16 million for something else. So if that's the case, then that is a great way of finding money in your couch. Looking into just, reaching around on your couch, you find $16 million to sign a player. That would be pretty good. But the fact that it looks like they're going to get that money back, Yu Darvish's $16 million, but they also said we feel like it's more about adding, tells me that they are focused on producing a winner this year. And once we get the spring training, I think a lot more is going to make sense, because that's when things happen with AJ Preller. All right. Let's talk about this Puerto Rico World Baseball Classic thing that's kind of gaining a little bit of steam. And it's all about Puerto Rico and their players not being able to play in the World Baseball Classic due to one thing. And I'll tell you about that in just a second. But Puerto Rico is even considering withdrawing from the upcoming 2026 World Baseball Classic because it's all about insurance, which I understand, because these baseball teams are letting their players that they have under contract go and play for their own countries. But you don't want somebody to get hurt. Edwin Diaz comes to mind. I think he tore his patellar tendon when he was celebrating the World Baseball Classic after winning a game, and he was out for the entire year. So here's the problem. These players need to get their contracts insured. But apparently the Puerto Rico team is receiving more denials of contracts and insured contracts than any other country. And their biggest player, Francisco Lindor, Puerto Rico's biggest player, the Mets star shortstop, he has not been approved to play in the World Baseball Classic. Now, he really wants to play in this because Puerto Rico is hosting some games in the World Baseball Classic. So he wants to be a part of that. He is not going to be able to do it because the elbow injury that he had during the year, he got surgery. Well, he's undergone more than one surgery in the past for elbow injuries, but it's not supposed to affect anything that's coming up this year, but the insurance will not insure his contract because they're afraid that he is going to get hurt. So if you can't find someone to insure the contract, then you can't play in the World Baseball Classic. And this goes for anyone over the age of 37. I think very angry about he's not able to play because his contract won't be insured because he's over the age of 37. There's others than just Francisco Lindor. Astros infielder Carlos Correa. I forgot he was playing for the Astros. Blue Jays right-hander Jose Barrios and Twins catcher Victor Cattini are among those not expected to be able to participate in the World Baseball Classic for Puerto Rico. And a lot of people think this is pretty unfair. Here's a quote. Quote, in some ways, I think this is a little bit unfair, especially when you are 3 days from submitting your final roster. Who in the world with Lindor wasn't on the eligible list? You wait until the last weekend to get an answer on Lindor? Come on. Puerto Rico said, it took us by surprise. I know that WBC isn't in those decisions. It's the insurance companies, but you have guys on other teams. They have an injury history. And then I got guys on my roster who'll be playing at the AA level with no major league guarantee, no MLB invitation to spring training, and they get flagged. And guys on other teams who could play in the WBC are earning $30 million a year. It's kind of tough to understand it. And I do understand. I do understand why people are angry about this because it doesn't seem like it should be a big deal whatsoever for these players to play. I know that like someone like Byron Buxton, who has been injured a lot in his career, but he's got 3 years and like $45 million left on his deal. The insurance company said, yeah, you can go ahead and play. But Francisco Lindor can't because his contract is much more expensive than the other contract. And Lindor is, I don't trying to come up with a way of just not just saying I don't understand this, but I don't understand this. I get the whole deal is that the insurance company is insuring the contract and not the player. So on the outside, looking at Francisco Lindor, you're like, he's going to be fine. He's going to be healthy. But the insurer is looking at it like, hey, these injuries could come back to bite us. What if something does happen where then we are paying out because he did get injured? And they just aren't willing to take that risk, which I think that baseball has to step in. They have to step in and they have to do something about this because baseball has enough money to do this, but you can't just let insurers determine who's playing in the World Baseball Classic now. It's kind of crazy. And in the end, Puerto Rico is not going to pull out of the WBC because there would be so many different things that would happen. They might face sanctions, I was reading, by the World Baseball people. I just don't. I think this is a misguided attempt for the insurance company, which they are insurance companies. So I guess I can't really be too surprised. This is what happens every single day. I'm reading insurers aren't really deciding. It's still players and organizations. The player, if they want to play in the World Baseball Classic, they have to get insurance. It's not a choice. You have to be insured because if you get hurt, then during that time that you are hurt for the major league team is going to be receiving money because you insured the contract. I don't know. I feel like this is just a little bit too much. Just let them play. Who cares? It's the World Baseball Classic. It is very sports, though, to have this World Baseball Classic. Everybody in the world is going to be playing baseball, and we're going to be playing for the World Championship. except if we don't get insurance on your contract. So there. So there. Like other guys, Aaron Judge, he's been hurt a lot. He got approved. Jose Altuve is another reason they're saying is, why they need to have insurance, because he broke his thumb last year or last WBC, and he missed like 2 months or something. So, I think this is just a big old waste of time. Just let them play. The new sport in the Olympics. Oh, sorry. Who is signing and paying the premiums? I'm going to have to figure that out. I did not see that in any of my readings. I'm going to have to figure out who is paying that stuff. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if the player had to pay, but I'm not sure. I'll try to figure that out. But here's the new Olympic sport. It's called Olympic ski mountaineering, and it's going to be debuting at this Winter Olympics, the Milano Cortina 2026 Winter Olympics. And now get this. This is something that is kind of like an everyday person event. I'm going to just read their description of it because I was having a really hard time writing a description. So this comes from the Winter Olympics website. The sprint race consists of an ascent and descent. The ascent has 3 stages. Athletes begin the race with skis attached, then remove them and place them on their backpacks to tackle a set of steps. The final stage involves a further ascent on skis before the skins, which are these like things that help you walk up the hill in the snow. Before the skins are removed for the descent to the finish line, there are various elimination rounds in the lead up to the final in which medals are awarded. The normal duration of the race is around 3.5 minutes per heat. So this is kind of up my alley because I do like to watch the Olympics. And the Winter Olympics. I really do like to watch it. And so I'm excited about this because I've watched the cross country skiing. I've watched some of the, what is it? I don't even remember. It's not alpine skiing, but it's one of those where you have to, it's endurance. Oh, the one where they go and have to shoot as well as ski. Gosh, I can't remember the name of that. This is embarrassing. But this is right up my alley. 3.5 minutes per heat. Like these people are going through 3 separate stages. And I was watching videos earlier. They are intense. They have to like run up these stairs. They have to climb up hills on skis. They have to go down hills on skis. But keep a lookout for Skimo. That's what they're calling it. Olympic ski mountaineering. Go Google some videos of Olympic ski mountaineering because it looks pretty cool. I'm all about it. It's better than breaking. Remember breakdancing was in a part of the, who was it? Ray Gun? I hope everything went okay for Ray Gun. She had it rough after the Olympics. But new event. I'm looking forward to it. How many people are looking forward to the Olympics? Should I be doing an Olympic update on the Skraby Show? You let me know. Before we get into the Daily Gripe, here's one more thing that I realized over the weekend. I think I'm going to be the newspaper reader of the tech era. Meaning, I listen to all of my podcasts audio only while I'm driving. I never sit down and watch a podcast. Now, I know a lot of people do. A lot of people are doing it right now. A lot of people do it with the station. I'm not that way because I am driving a lot from North County down here. And so everybody seems to be watching their podcast. And I don't want to get to a point, and maybe I'm already there, but the audio only portion of the podcast is going to be like the newspaper one day. Really, really hit me hard this weekend. I felt like I was a little bit old because I was talking to someone at FanFest and they were like, hey, you need to watch this podcast. And I was thinking, watch podcasts? I don't know that I watch podcasts. And then I realized I was old. And I'm going to be the newspaper reader by listening to audio only podcasts. How many people only listen to audio only podcasts? Oh, Death by Palm Tree got his feelings hurt, or her feelings hurt. Could they win a championship? Could Puerto Rico win a championship? I don't know. I don't know why Death Palm Tree said, really fascinating topic here. Anyway, you are watching a podcast, so you are up to date in the tech world. That is just something that I'm not yet.
What's annoying Skraby today? Let's find out. It's time for the Daily Gripe.
Someone said, look up how to say skins for skis in French phonetically. I will look at that a little bit later. Gator Padre said, I didn't even know podcasts were more than audio. Yeah. This isn't a podcast, this is a show, I guess. People like Netflix does podcasts with the video now. You can go and get Netflix podcasts. Yeah. So Gator Padre, we'll be old together, okay? Chris says Skraby's calling us young whippersnappers. Maybe I am. I love the word whippersnapper, though. That is a good word, whippersnapper. All right. The Daily Gripe tonight is something that happened to me earlier today. And I was walking Lucky and then my parents' dog. So I have 3 dogs when I'm walking these dogs. And they sometimes get all crossed up. Their leashes get all tangled. It's a whole disaster. It's a whole disaster. But today, I almost lost it because I was trying to. Okay, so there's this trail that I have to wait for people because sometimes the people on the trail are walking up. So it's just easier for me to go down the trail after I watch them come up and move, so I can have all the room down the trail. Here, so these 3 high school girls come walking by. I go down, take my dogs on the walk. All of them, all of a sudden, just started going nuts, wanting to like hang out with these girls. And so I'm trying to get them under control, and I'm trying to like walk them away at the same time. But then Lucky wrapped my feet, and I literally fell on my face in front of these 3 girls. It was so embarrassing. It was so embarrassing. Lucky wrapped my feet. He went around me, so I had nowhere to go, and I did not really feel it on my feet. So I went to go step and went whack on the ground, like flat down on the ground in front of these people, and it was embarrassing. Taylor, Jessica, I'm gonna have to look up how to say that another time. But please be careful when you're walking your dogs, people. Like, I'm surprised that I don't have a concussion or a broken nose, but I fell flat on my face. Like, boom. And Lucky looked at me like, you're so stupid, Dad. What are you doing over there? Why are you on the ground? That's Lucky's voice. All right, that's it for today. Back tomorrow with Gwen and Chris at 2 p.m. and then Skraby Show, 6 p.m. Have a great night, everybody.